All right, man. What's the deal? Feel by Craft, another live video, man. Today I got my boy PJ, the creator of the PJ Hoops podcast. Ball knower, God knows his stuff. Just as into it basketball as I am. So somebody who I can't wait to have conversation with. What's up, man? How you feeling?
Man, I'm doing wonderful today.
Sir.
I mean, we got a lot to talk about today, truth be told. I feel like there's a lot going on
A
at the
lot.
pro level. Today, I'm about to actually go to one of my local high school games. I'm located here in Oregon. I'm going to go check out a prospect, see what he's about. I seen that he made the McDonald's All-American Finals list. He didn't make the team quite yet, but I'm going to go check him out locally and to see what he's got going on in his game today. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I know this is something we've been planning for a while now. So, yeah, I'm ready to get to it. We got a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about. Like you said, fun fact, I came across PJ's videos on TikTok. Most of my feed is just sports content creators of all different sizes. And I seen a couple of his videos pop up. And like I said, it's, in my opinion, there's a lot of people that get on the internet and just say things for reaction. He felt authentic. Feel like we were on the same page as far as like really talking about the game, cutting it, not cutting any corners. So appreciate you for coming on. You said you do the scouting. Before we hop into this trade deadline talk, how did you get into scouting? How long have you been doing it? How'd you get into it?
Yeah, totally. Honestly, like scouting for me was something that kind of just came really organically. I would say I really started diving into it heavily. I would say the last 5-6 years is when I really started paying heavy attention. It started even before that. Before that, I would be with my brother and we would just be, looking at the draft, watching college here and there. I'm a Duke fan. So I've always kept up with college basketball since I was little, but when it came to scouting, I noticed that I kind of had an eye for it, and I feel like a lot of people are very heavily on the numbers and percentage this, percentage that, and percentile this. That's not me. I feel like I'm very old school in the way I go about scouting, and luckily, since I've started my podcast and even my audio podcast 2 years ago, you can kind of go back and kind of see how I view things. And a lot of things have come to fruition, truth be told. So it's kind of something that came organic. I wasn't seeking to do scouting. It's just something I just have noticed that I've been gifted at doing, So
Yes, sir. And it sounds like you know your stuff based off the content you put out. Go check them out. PJ Hoops Podcast, TikTok, YouTube, wherever you find all that stuff at. Great content. Jumping right into it, man. Like you said, we got a lot to talk about. The trade deadline has probably been the most active as it's been this season. James Harden is on the move, supposedly. We got some trades that happened with the Chicago Bulls, Detroit Pistons. Minnesota looks to be making space to try to get Giannis, and if not, I've seen that they might be trying to pivot to James Harden. Starting with James Harden, man, I think this might be the fourth trade that he's requested in the last 5 to 6 years. Where do you think that realistically, where do you think that he might land, or where do you want him to land personally?
Yeah. So honestly, personally, if it was up to me, and I think I kind of hinted on this to you over the phone, but I think personally at this point, I would like to see him in Detroit if that was an option for me. Detroit has a trade exception. I think they have about a $14 million trade exception, so they wouldn't have to trade much for him. I think they could just send over Tobias Harris and maybe throw in one or two firsts for him. But I personally like to see him in Detroit. I think Detroit could use the offense. And I really like Detroit personally. Obviously, the most likely team is going to end up with is probably going to be Cleveland, which Cleveland for me, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him in Cleveland just because I've been on the record stating that I believe Donovan Mitchell was out of Cleveland. I said that literally before it even got reported that he may look elsewhere. I noticed it when he didn't sign that extension with them over last summer. I was like, oh yeah, Donovan Mitchell's out of there. So in the season, that locker room was rubbing me the wrong way, just the games I watched. So James Harden to Cleveland is probably going to happen, is what we're all being told that. But if it was up to me, I would like to see him in Detroit. That's just my personal preference. What about you?
And me personally, like you said, once we talked a little bit about it earlier, Detroit honestly didn't pop into my head until you brought it to my attention. And it made a lot of sense. And now it even makes more sense that Jaden Ivey is out the door. Future, top 5 pick for them. And I think, like you said, they could just use the offense. As we get later into the season, Cade Cunningham kind of, got into some sort of a slump like all great players do. And I think he could just really benefit from a guy like James Harden. So I do like that. Personally, I wouldn't mind seeing James Harden in Minnesota. Um, I just want to see Anthony Edwards play some meaningful basketball. Not that he doesn't, but I hate to see young players have such a big responsibility so early, and that might be the reason as to why they don't get as far as they could have. Um, I think Rudy Gobert is a very great player defensively. Doesn't move the needle for me offensively at all. Not even average offensive player.
Yeah.
Julius Randle, streaky. I like him as a player, but I just think a guy like James Harden and maybe somebody who can even take the ball off Anthony Edwards' hands, because I feel like Minnesota does need a point guard. Mike Conley's out of there. Rob Dillingham's not getting a lot of clock. Dante DiVincenzo I view as more of a two guard. So I think they could really benefit from another ball handler, and especially a guy who can shoot the ball. So Minnesota is somewhere where I would want to. On the same train as you, I think Cleveland might be the most realistic next location. I just found out that he has a no trade. What does he have?
No trade clause.
A no trade clause, pretty much.
Yep.
So that kind of rules out a lot of teams that I probably would want to see. So Cleveland makes a lot of sense. Donovan Mitchell didn't sign that extension, so this might be a desperate move to get Donovan Mitchell to stay. Let's put some talent around him. LeBron James could potentially be coming there next year. You're seeing a lot of that. So I think it's one of those things where, okay, similar to Milwaukee, when they went aggressive and got Miles Turner this offseason, re-signed Kevin Porter. I think it's one of those things where Cleveland is, let's throw anything at the wall at this point, and if it sticks, let's do what we got to do to get Donovan Mitchell here. And if that means get rid of Darius Garland, that's not even a question. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I've seen a lot of people upset that you're trading a young guy for an old guy, but I don't mind it, to be honest. I don't mind it. So
I got a question for you. So
I'm
going to kind of beg you the question that I put on my podcast actually a couple of weeks back.
Okay.
So let's play this theoretical game. So let's say this whole James Harden thing, let's say he doesn't end up in Cleveland, okay? Let's say he doesn't. Okay. Let's say Donovan Mitchell is let's say they get to the playoffs this year. Let's say they get bounced in. I'm gonna be very nice to them. I'm gonna say they get to the second round, okay?
Okay.
Let's say they bounce in the second round. And now, obviously, the whole Braun thing is brewing, right? Braun to Cleveland. I said this on my pod, and I was like, Braun to Cleveland obviously makes a lot of sense. LeBron's not going to want to go anywhere else. We know that, right?
Right.
For legacy reasons, he doesn't want to end up on a brand new team. Cleveland makes the most sense. Let him have his last little hurrah in Cleveland, which would be a beautiful thing. Yep. But where that took me was, okay, if LeBron's going to Cleveland, who's going to LA? And that took me to Donovan Mitchell. What do you think about Donovan Mitchell playing with Luka? How do you feel about that?
Okay, so I think it could work. I think when you put two talented players, especially on that level, I feel like it's always a way for it to work. So I don't want to be like, oh, it just won't work. Now, the concern comes in because I don't think Donovan Mitchell is the defender he was in Utah. He's older, so by nature, you're probably not going to be as active defensively, especially when he's close to a 30-point per game guy. I don't think that will change. So I think it's buckets for sure, but defensively, I can just see it not helping. I think Luka can benefit from, or I think the type of player, Luka needs to play with a Scotty Barnes. Luka needs to play with an all-star level two-way wing, just because I think he's that piss poor of a defender. And I think it shows. Like, the Lakers are balling, but if you look at a lot of these Lakers games, I mean, the effort that he gives defensively, I feel like he complains a lot, which could, give up fast break points, transition points. I feel like antics lead to a lot of injuries, like when he was jumping on the one leg and fell off the court. He was bouncing on one leg from the three-point line out of bounds. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, if you just get back, you're not even in that position. So, great player, but I don't know if I love that for Luka Doncic. Now, I think Donovan Mitchell is the caliber player where he's going to be Donovan Mitchell no matter what jersey he's got on. I don't know if that makes him a championship contender necessarily. I don't know. I think it could work, though. I'm not saying it couldn't, but if I were to gamble on it, I would probably say I would lean more towards I don't really like it as much as maybe the majority people would. Now, I have a counter from that question. You said who goes to LA? Now, do you think Cleveland would be willing to come off of Mobley maybe to send him to LA with Luka? I think that could work. Not saying that he would be the only piece, but maybe center the trade around Evan Mobley, former defensive player of the year. I just said Luka needs some defense. I think JJ Redick could, I think he would like that. Do you think that is a realistic move? Do you think Evan Mobley can move the needle to get a guy like LeBron James?
I think Adam Silver would have to make that call. to
Okay.
make that happen. I just
Okay.
don't think the Lakers have necessarily, and they could trade a couple of draft picks. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
I think Evan Mobley's untouchable in Cleveland. To be real with you, I think he's
Okay.
untouchable. That's why I said Donovan Mitchell, because Donovan Mitchell is also due for a contract extension. Donovan Mitchell lines up with Luka's age. And also, the reason why I really like Donovan Mitchell with the Lakers is because Donovan Mitchell is going to give you essentially what Kyrie was giving Luka in Dallas. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then
And they did make
defensively,
it to the finals.
they can get defenders. You're in LA. Okay,
Yeah.
like who don't want to go to LA. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, I'm not worried about that aspect of it. I also think next year, they got a rookie on their team. What's his name? Oh, I don't want to botch his name, but he went to Arkansas. I think his name
Oh,
is
yeah, yeah.
Abo. I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Ado or something like that. I
Athlete.
really like him. I like him as a 3-and-D player. I think he's going to be a rotational player for them next year. But I don't want to get off track with you. Let's go into some of these other good trades because there's some other things that happen that I really want to highlight with you as well.
Let's go.
Okay, let's talk about. So we talked about Cleveland and them, and obviously they traded DeAndre Hunter.
Yes.
That was what was that, like 2 days ago or yesterday or something? They traded
Yeah,
DeAndre
about 2 days ago yesterday.
Yeah, so DeAndre Hunter going to Sacramento. Sacramento has to decide, I think, if they're going to extend DeAndre Hunter or not, because he's extension eligible this summer. So that's something to watch out for.
Yep.
And then we see Dario Saric. He got moved twice. Poor guy. That sucks. He ended up going to the Bulls, but then got traded to Detroit.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. And the most, I think, interesting thing amongst that is obviously Cleveland. They got Keon Ellis, and then they got Dennis Schroeder. And Keon Ellis was a player that during the summer I talked about as somebody that I would like to have seen get traded because I think he could be a rotational player on a championship team. So I'm kind of happy to see that he is on a contender. What are your thoughts on that ended up happening?
Yes, sir. So to start off with that Sacramento Cleveland trade, Dennis Schroeder, I feel like is the low key best part of this trade. I think with how injury prone that Darius Garland is, you get Donovan Mitchell, you get somebody that Donovan Mitchell can kind of play off the ball with. I think Dennis Schroeder is good enough to run with a second unit and be productive, maybe fill in and start some games if Garland's not ready to go. So I think Cleveland, and like you said, from a non-biased aspect, Keon's my little cousin. I agree. I think he could be a really good rotational piece on a contending team. So really excited to see that pan out. Again, putting guys around Donovan Mitchell who can maybe, shoot the ball, play a little defense. Detroit, we talked about Detroit a little bit earlier. I like the fact that they were able to acquire some shooting. They got Kevin Huerter. Dario can hit the long ball a little bit. So I think that can really benefit, you lose Malik Beasley after the gambling thing. So I think you fill that void there in shooting, which I've seen that he can technically sign. I don't know how true that is, but so I think a lot of teams got better at this deadline. I don't think a lot of teams really took steps backwards as far as the teams that we've covered so far. I think so far it's been a really interesting trade deadline. Now, while the names might not be the huge names that we want to see right now, Giannis and James Harden, I think guys like us who, watch the game and kind of are, watch it more than maybe the casual fan does can appreciate a lot of these moves being made. And I'm just really interested to see what Minnesota has planned. They've been the only team that have been moving pieces but haven't got literally anything in return. So that's kind of where most of my attention is right now, trying to figure out, what route they're going to take. Because I feel like it's a three-way street. You got Giannis, Ja, and you got
James Harden.
So
yeah, no, you're good. So with Minnesota, I also want to put this out there too for you for Minnesota. With Minnesota making that trade earlier on with Detroit and with Chicago, first Minnesota puts themselves under the first apron. They also save between 20 and 40 million in tax. But then they also received for them getting rid of Conley, that just was clean money coming off the books. So they created a $10.7 million trade player exception, which is great, right? When you're trying to go get a James Harden, when you're trying to go get a John Morant, when you're trying to go get a Giannis, that trade exception I think is going to be used over these next 48 hours is what I'm assuming. Yeah. So, and then also the other thing they gave up was a pick swap for this year's first, which most likely if they're swapping with Detroit, it's probably going to be pick, 28 or 29?
Yeah, it's going to be a back-end pick for sure.
Yeah, so Detroit will essentially move up. One of my OGs, he's a Detroit fan, and I was telling him, Detroit, I really like the trade for Detroit because now, as deep as this draft is, Detroit will have an option to move up, let's say, 3 spots. But that 3 spots could make a difference on what kind of rotational player they get, So
100%.
I think Minnesota for sure is not done. It'll be interesting to see how Minnesota goes about trying to get Giannis, because another avenue is a lot of these teams need to be calling Portland. If they're not, I'm assuming they have been, just because Portland controls the Bucks picks, and obviously they have Drew Holiday as well.
Yes,
but these teams, that's what, and maybe Minnesota's on the phone with Portland. I believe Joe Cronin has a relationship with the president of basketball operations for Minnesota, which is old guy from Denver. I forgot his name.
I know you're talking about the family. It's a family of them. I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but he's the president of basketball operations for Minnesota. So it's going to be interesting to see, because Minnesota obviously is not done.
100%.
And so it's interesting. What do you think about Chicago? What do you think about what the Bulls are doing right now with all these guards that they've accumulated?
I was going to say, bro, it's a lot of guards. So I think the first thing we can assume is Kobe White's out the door. Yeah, that's a name that's been appearing in the trade deadline. I want to say like the last 2 or 3 years now. At least that's what it feels like. So I think that alone lets you know that Kobe White is out the door. I also have a question about Josh Giddey's health. I don't know. Has he came back?
Giddey is back, I believe. I believe he was coming off the bench. Don't quote me.
Okay.
I believe so. I'm gonna double down, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
He's back.
Why you look that up? Yeah. So that alone tells me they're maybe not as confident as they thought they were with their backcourt. They also acquired Jaden Ivey. I think that's a low-key solid move if he can stay healthy. I was a big Jaden Ivey guy. So I think they could really benefit off of that, Chicago. They get rid of Vooch. So that was pretty interesting. They send him over to Boston.
And I think with that, and then also Josh Giddey got hurt again.
Okay, so that's what I'm like. I don't know. Maybe he's not staying healthy or something.
Yeah, he's out. But the Vooch thing, I wanted to talk to you too. I'm happy you went there, man. This is good. This is good stuff. So another thing that I don't know if people know about, but with that trade, with Vucevic going to Boston, which is an expiring contract, so Vucevic could come off the books this summer. They also created a $27.6 million trade player exception. So Boston's not done. They have a year to use that trade player exception.
Nice.
$27.6 million, bro. Like, let that sink in.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot. And what they can do with that, it's going to be interesting. That's what I'm saying. I don't think Boston's done. I don't think Boston's done. So I wanted to throw that at you, because when I came across that, I was like, okay, Boston's clearly setting themselves up. Maybe they go get Domantas Sabonis. I'm just throwing a name out.
That could work. Do you think that this move means Tatum is coming back? Like you said, Vooch is potentially off the books after this season. Do you think that might spark we're in win now mode? So Jason Tatum come April, May, if you can maybe give it a go, let's get you out there. Because with the Pistons at the top of the East right now, depending upon how this trade deadline goes, who knows what goes on with New York. I'm not too big of a fan of teams that are that close to contention, like making big splash moves. I feel like that can just throw off the entire team. So I'm interested to see kind of, how the trade deadline affects a lot of that stuff. But Jason Tatum, man, I'm interested to see if he thinks like, okay, we're in win now mode. Let me try to come back. I've seen that he's been wanting to come back. I've been seeing the workout videos. I hope he sits, but I'm just interested to see if maybe that might spark a Jason Tatum, like, okay, we're in win now mode, because they really didn't give up anything. I would have thought if they made a trade, Peyton Pritchard would have had to go. Anthony Simons, he wasn't getting too much clock anyway for as good as he is. So I think Boston isn't just in win now mode, man.
Yeah, and they also, with that trade, they get out of the first apron, is what I read. And then they also, because the buyout market happens right after free agency. So in the buyout market, Boston will have about a $14 million that they can use in the buyout market too. So it's Boston, I think, is gearing up, because I think they smell blood in the water. I think they think they can beat Detroit. I think they think they know they can beat the Knicks, right? Like psychologically, I think they can beat the Knicks. Philadelphia, they've been running over Philadelphia for years now.
I don't believe in Orlando right now.
Yeah, Orlando's kind of in the gutter right now. They don't really know what they want to do as a team. Yeah, I think Boston smells blood in the water, bro. And we'll see if Tatum comes back. I guess that's the big question mark. But to me, how I see it, and I've been on the record to say this, I think it's important for young guys to get to the playoffs and to get exposed to the playoffs regardless. So players like Hugo Gonzalez, Jordan Walsh, them getting exposed to the
Yeah.
playoffs, I think is going to move. Baylor Shireman, them getting to the playoffs and just being exposed, I think is going to substantially benefit Boston for the next 2 to 3 years after this. So even if Tatum don't come back, this is still at least a second
This is good
round
stuff.
team.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
That's a good point, bro, because, I mean, I'm a Thunder fan, and you hit the nail right on the head. Like, OKC, we won the championship, but the year before that, we got bounced in the second round. The year before that, we were in the play-in and, got bounced before we could get into the play-in. So I think it is really beneficial for them young guys to see high-level basketball, playoff basketball early. So when you get to year 3, year 4, where they're still 25, 26 years old, they can win a title like OKC. I want to transition. Speaking of Danny Ainge, Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz have also been very active in this trade deadline. They acquired Jaren Jackson, come off Walter Clayton. That's a team that I feel like, similar to how Detroit kind of made that jump from the last 2 years to now, where they were bottom and then we blinking at the top. Now, I'm not saying I don't think Utah will be a number 1 seed, number 2 seed. But I think next year, if they keep Walker Kessler, that projected starting lineup, bro, that is something that we have not seen before, and I think it could work. We're talking George, Bailey, Marketing, Jackson, Kessler as a starting 5. Now, that could be me playing 2K a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how realistic that is, but I think that's a team that could really – and they're still fairly young. I think that's a team that if you just look on paper, they check a lot of boxes. They got a lead guard. They got rim protection. They got spacing and shooting. They got length. I think from like a simple aspect, they got the formula. The game still got to be played, but I think Utah is sneakily making some good moves, man. I think that could be a team that's the next team to turn it around, to be honest.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. With Utah, and I guess this kind of like, if you think about their jumbo lineup, doesn't this kind of remind you of the jumbo lineup that was in Cleveland a couple of years back when they were marketing?
Yep.
Doesn't that kind of make you think about that one? But I do agree with you. I think next year Utah is one of those teams, and I love Will Hardy. I think Will Hardy is a great coach.
Yeah.
Just kind of just had to bite the bullet over the last couple of years. But
for sure,
Utah, I think, is in a prime position for sure next year to, if not make the playoffs, for sure make the play-in. But just we always got to remember, when one team goes up, another team has to come down. 100%. So that's a conversation for another day, but that's just something to think about, when we think about moving teams up, because that's what I did this year with in the preseason. Before the year started, I put out who I thought was going to make the playoffs and play-in, and my 2 teams. My one for the West was the Blazers to make the play-in, and in the East, my play-in team was the Charlotte Hornets. And it's similar, right?
Good.
It's similar. Yeah, it's very similar, right? Like, we obviously have to go through these growing processes, and during this trade for Triple J lets me know that Danny Ainge, he believes in Keontae George. He believes in Ace Bailey. Like, that's literally all that tells me. Straight 100%. Up. That's literally where my mind went. Right when I seen Jaren Jackson pop up on my phone, I was like, oh, Danny Ainge believes in Keontae George.
Yep.
And, I mean, that's a great guy to believe. I was a big Keontae George fan, bro.
Same.
Since he was in high school on my audio pod. I was talking about him because they played in the 3-on-3 tournament, and he led the U.S. to gold in that tournament. And this was before he went to Baylor. When I seen him in that tournament, I was like, oh, yeah, this he's an NBA player. Just at Baylor, Baylor didn't pan out. I don't care for Baylor. That's another conversation anyway. But I wanted to tell you, with this trade as well, Memphis did something a little sneaky. So they also received a trade player exception, a trade player exception in this trade for $28.8 million. So they have to use that within the next year. What I'm assuming is going to happen is Memphis may use that and be kind of like the bridge for a bigger trade and just suck up some contracts or something is what I'm assuming they're going to do with that player exception. And then obviously they get the 3 first.
That's big. The 3 first is big time.
And truth be told, we'll see, because let's say Cleveland does trade for James Harden, and let's say that whole James Harden thing, melts down after year 1 because Donovan Mitchell still wants out and he doesn't want to play with James Harden. Now you got some money on your hands, right? Now that 2027 pick potentially could be a lottery pick, which is I know it's kind of crazy to say that right now. We still got 2 years, but that's just
100%.
how I
And
kind of like. I go down those stairs, bro. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
you
So,
got to, bro. Because I mean, like you said, with these next 2 years of free agency, I know Memphis is a small market, but I think it's gonna be some bidding wars. You got Kawhi Leonard coming off the books. You got Joker getting free agency again. It's a stretch, but you get your foot in the door for simply having enough money. You know what I'm saying? Especially with guys that are
hmm
on the back end of their careers. So that's the NBA trade deadline is going up. It's going up right now. We're recording this. We still got some moves that are going to be made. The next 48 hours will be pretty exciting. I want to transition to some college basketball. Uh, just as interesting, heating up just as much as the pros is right now. And more specifically, this freshman class and the guards that this class is producing might be something that we have never seen before, or at least haven't seen in the last 15, 20 years. You got Darius Acuff, you got Kingston Fleming, you got Keaton Wagler, Chris Anderson, LeVar Philon. I kind of just wanted to know, like, how you kind of rank these guards. Do you think that maybe it's a potential that with this being so loaded of a guard class that somebody returns? I think a guy like Tahad Pettiford is a lock to hit the portal and stay in college. Um, Braden Mullins. What are your thoughts on these guards coming out? And who do you kind of got ranked at the top of the guard list right now?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm happy you brought this up because for me, literally the last, I would say, 72 hours, I've been contemplating who I want at 5, 6, and 7. Because truth be told, to me, that top 4 is a lock. I think
Yeah.
universally top 4 is lock. We got DP, AJ, Cam, and Caleb. I think that's
Yep. It's gonna
universally
be
lock. And I don't know. Obviously, I haven't looked at other people's draft boards, but I would say majority of people have those top 4. Maybe in different orders.
Yeah. That's
So my
pretty
5,
good.
6, and 7. Obviously, whoever gets the 5th pick, that's obviously gonna play a big part in it to me because
Yeah.
I think the 3 guys that I'm considering for my 5, 6, and 7 is Darius Aguff, is Keaton Wagler, and then it's also Kingston Flemings.
Okay.
And I think each of them bring different things to the table. I think for right now, based on today, I have Darius at 5, simply because to me, Darius, it's weird to say what I'm about to say, but I'm going to I'll explain where I'm coming from. So Darius to me does the most with the least. Arkansas, if you look at the Arkansas team, that team is filled with potential, but that potential has not been fully exposed, right? Like a lot of those players, those 5-star kids, have not reached where they were supposed to be. Like Billy Richmond, Carter Knox. These are guys that didn't even. What's the other? Trevor. What's his name? Trevor Bay. Something with a B, or something like that, right? Like they have players on this team that
are
5-star recruits. So
Yeah.
to me, it's like Darius really elevates that team. Whereas I feel like Keaton has the luxury of playing with a bunch of offensive players. Like the Twin Towers, they're both offensive players. Stojakovic, he's an offensive player. Boswell's been out, but Boswell's a senior that's offensive player. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love Keaton. I really like Keaton Wagner a lot. But I just feel like he's benefited a little bit more, right? They have the number 1 offense in college basketball, according to Kim Pop. So, for me, Keaton is 7. Also, defensively, I think he, out of all 3 of them, is the weaker defender. He has the highest potential because of his combination of shooting and his eyes at 6'6". He's skinny, but the boy got a pretty strong, I would say, lower base. So don't be fooled by his upper body. His lower base is pretty strong. He has really good footwork. But for me, I would put Darius at 5 because of his playmaking ability. And I feel like he's the most steady out of all of them, if that makes sense. Like, he's not the most explosive. The most explosive is probably Kingston Flemings, if I'm being real. I think he's probably the most explosive. But when I'm talking about a sheer point guard, because I'm old school, when I'm talking about somebody running a team, and let's say all 3 of those players' teammates are all like 3-star players, right? And then the 5-star. I believe Darius would carry his team further than the other 2 based on his ability to play make and control the game from a point guard position. Whereas Kingston and Wagner, those 2 are looking more so to score first than distribute second, which is fine, right? Because today's NBA is that's what it is. NBA is, So I would put Darius 5, Kingston would be 6, and then Wagner would be 7. Wagner's 7 really because of his defense. I watched enough of his games, and his defense to me is not. The
I
boy
feel you.
don't really got much defense. Like his
I
defense
feel
is
you.
fine. You know what I'm saying? Like he'll be fine, but he's not compared to the other two. The other two to me
Right.
are like, okay, these dudes will be fine defensively, right? Like
Yeah.
I know they're not
Kingston
going to
getting
get
Drew
killed.
Holiday comparisons and stuff like that. So I think I agree with you 100% on that defense end.
Yeah, like, that's the only reason why I put him at 7. Like, if his defense was better, then he probably would be closer to the 5 or 6. But the other two's defense is so much better than his to me. And yeah, I just think also like shooting wise, like Keaton is the better long range shooter out of all three of them. The boy's range is, he
100%.
shoots from the parking lot. I think so.
That's
Look,
like
I'll give
Klay
you this.
Thompson, like, bro.
Yeah, so I'll give you my player comps for these three, and then we can move forward. So
Yeah.
for me, Darius Aguff is like he's a less athletic version and post knee surgery version of Derrick Rose. That's what I see when I watch him play. And
Okay.
then with Kingston Flemings, I have written down for him. He's a taller, a better defender, but he reminds me of like a CJ McCollum. But he's a better defender,
Okay.
in my opinion.
I like that.
And then for Keaton Wagner to me he's a bigger, less shifty version of Jordan Poole / Jamal Murray. That's what I wrote Keaton Wagner down for. But to me, you can't go wrong with either one. I'm gonna be real with you. I want to see Keaton Wagner in Dallas with Cooper
Yeah.
Flag because I
Hey,
just
man.
think a backcourt of him and Max Christie could be a poor man's Splash Bros. So that's
Yeah.
my preference.
Yeah.
We'll see. One of these kids, I feel confident telling you, bro. I feel like one of these kids is going to end up in Dallas. I just
Oh,
don't know which
100%.
one.
100%.
So I just feel like you can't go wrong with either one of the three. But that's kind of where I would put him just right now today where we're at today. What do you think?
So I'm with you. I agree with my order is a little bit different than yours, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where it's more of like a what do you prefer type thing. I don't think like one is
Mm-hmm.
just like obviously better than the other. I think it's more like when you watch the game, what do you want the most from your team? Because
Yep.
not every team's built the same. I do think I agree with the order though that the three guards, the first three guards to go off, I do believe will be Kingston, Acuff, and Wagner. Me personally, I lean more towards Kingston Fleming from the defensive end. Um, I think he's just more aggressive as a defender. I think he had one game where he had like 7 steals in the game. So it's
Yep.
not like one of those threes where like he's just jumping the passing lane, not to discredit those steals at all. Because guys like Allen Iverson made the, all NBA team doing that. But he's
Mm-hmm.
ripping defenders, you know what I mean? He's nose half court,
Mm-hmm.
arms out, you know what I mean, picking at the ball, you know what I mean? So that's what I prefer. Also, I think he's huge down the stretch. So is Acuff. I think both of those they share that trait of late in the game they don't look phased, very composed, very rare ability to be seeing that from both guards at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially when none of them are like a Darren Peterson who could benefit from being 6'6", 200 pounds. You know what I mean? So
Uh-huh.
and Wagner, I've seen him in person once. I would be lying to you if I told you that he's going to be potentially a top 7 pick, coming out of college. Like I told you earlier, he didn't even get the Kansas offer, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think he got the K-State offer. So terrible job. Well, I don't want to say terrible job because misses happen, but just crazy how a guy like that can fly under the radar and then hit the scene and look like he's a junior or a senior scoring the ball. You know what I mean? So my order right now with the top 3 guards, I've got Kingston, and then I've got Wagner, and then I've got Acuff, but not too far behind Acuff in like a 1A, 1B type thing. I'm a big Phylon fan. Similar to the Acuff situation, I think the names might be there, but productivity wise, he keeps them in a lot of games, especially for a team who lives and die by the three. Aiden Holloway is hit or miss for me. I think whenever he can get it going, he's tough, but I think Phylon is just carrying a team that might not be living up to the potential that they could be. Now I know they're playing some really tough games. I will give them that. They are one of those college teams where when they schedule their schedule, they're no duck and smoke. They're playing heavy hitters. They're playing them early in the season. They're getting that rep. They're getting that bump. So I appreciate that. But I think Phylon could be potentially a better pro than a guy like Acuff just because offensively. Now, I don't want to compare him to a Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but when I say the Shea comparison, I think it's more of a guard who can work in the mid-range game, when that's taken away from him. Hit the long ball when need be. I think Phillip is shooting the three more than he should be just because that's what Alabama's system calls for. I think they just, they live or die by the three-point line. So I think Phillip could be a sneaky guy that could, get some big minutes early. And a team like Minnesota who's looking for a guard, even if they landed James Harden, you said Dallas can land one of these guys. If one of these guards, even if a Chris Anderson can fall to Minnesota, I think that could do wonders for Anthony Edwards and just the Timberwolves as they go, later into these seasons. Quick question. And you're a Duke fan, so I'm going to, I want to hear your opinion about this. I've seen Cam Boozer get compared to Kevin Garnett. I've seen him get compared to Jared Sullinger. And now that might be more of a troll, but I understand that, people might be concerned with, and not that I am because I don't think that matters, but people are saying that he's undersized. He doesn't have the athletic. He's not Zion Williams athletically to get away with being maybe an undersized big man. How do you feel, especially compared to former Duke guys like a Cooper Flag and Zion? I've seen him get compared to those three guys. Where do you think he matches up with those guys? And do you actually see him being a quality starter with all-star potential at the next level in the NBA?
Yeah, so Cam, I was on the record. I said this last summer. It's documented on my pod. I said that Cooper Flag was the best freshman at Duke from a prospect standpoint, and from what I was watching, he was better than Tatum. He was better than B.I. He was better than Jalen Johnson. He was better than Justice Winslow. He was better than R.J. Barry. He was better than Zion. He was better than Derek Lively. He was better than all of them. Like, Cooper Flag was the best Duke freshman that I've watched. And I was like, coming out, he's going to be better than all of them. I said that on the record, okay? So with Cam, and that Jared Sullinger, that I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. My player comp for him, I wrote it down. It's in front of me. He reminds me of Kevin Love. And I'm not talking Kevin Love where he's, in Cleveland bombing threes. I'm talking UCLA and early Minnesota Kevin Love, where he's doing the outlet passing. He's playing below the rim. Like, to me, he reminds me of Kevin Love.
I like that.
Defensively, yes, he leaves some meat on the bone, but he's good enough, right? Like, he'll be fine at the next level defensively. He just obviously got to soar up better on that end, but his player comp to me is more of a Kevin Love. That's what I see. I don't know. Kevin Garnett is. I don't even know why somebody would say that. He's not.
I was trying to remember who it was. It's a YouTube channel that I watch. And I'm like, if you don't watch Duke basketball, and this is why I say it's important that if you have the time to actually sit down and watch these players, because if you just go on the internet, go on Twitter, and see some of these comparisons and see that, like, it's a trend that once somebody of a higher status says one thing, it could be totally inaccurate, but everybody just runs with it. Like we were talking about earlier, Darren Peterson and Kobe Bryant. All it takes is one person to say that and for Darren Peterson to play at a high level and boom, like we're going to run with he's the next Kobe Bryant because he's really good and they're the same height. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of where the Boozer comparisons are coming from. They're seeing Twitter narratives. Now, I like the Kevin Love comparison because like you said, Kevin Love at one point was one of the best, if not the best outlet passer in the game. Cam Boozer has displayed that many times and, he's a great transition break starter, great passer, good touch. In the paint, bro, it's all him. I'm watching Duke games where he just looks unfazed. He's fighting through contact, and I really appreciate that because a lot of these guys who might be bigger than their opponent have height on them. I think they think that that's all it takes. He's fighting through contact. He's embracing the contact. So I really like that about his game. Defensively, I'm never really too concerned about guys coming in and not being the best defenders because I feel like that's one skill where that can be taught. And if it's not, and if it can't be taught, we can at least disguise this. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like he's going to be playing the 5. And even if he was, you got guys like CMB, Kyler Murray Boyles for Toronto playing 20-plus minutes at 6'5" at the 5. You got Draymond in Golden State 6'5", 6'6" at the 5. So even if he does have to play that, I don't think that is like a bad thing. I think it might be a good thing because a lot of these smaller, bigger guys are older guys or aren't as polished as he is offensively. I don't think CMB is nearly the offensive player that Boozer was coming out of college. So I think it could work. Like every player, the destination does matter for him. Defensively, I say that now. As crazy as it sounds, if he goes to a Brooklyn and plays next to a Claxton, if he goes to a team where he's playing next to a true 7-footer, I think that could really benefit him a lot. I can see him being a really solid help defender. He's already got the size, so I'm not worried about him necessarily getting like bullied down low. Because like I said, I think that's just something that they can teach him. And once
What
that
about
young
him
man
in
starts getting on him,
Washington?
I think Washington could be cool. I think if you put Sarr at the 5, they got
Yeah.
shooters. We just talked about how he's a great passer. Trey Johnson. Trae Young is coming, running that pick and roll with a Boozer can be terrible. And he's not a bad three-point shooter either. I mean,
Bro, he's
not a
solid.
bad three-point
He's
shooter.
solid. He's not,
And like
I say, he's not Kevin Love wet, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But he can shoot it, like good enough to where you have to guard him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, Cooper Flagg's biggest, I don't even call it a red flag because it wasn't a red flag, but no pun intended. But his biggest question mark was, can he shoot the long ball consistently? I think at one point in the season he was shooting like 29%, but now you look at that game against Charlotte, when he was going against Conor Knipple, it's 15 seconds left on the shot clock. He walking it down, shooting and hitting it. You know what I mean? So I think it's more of a confidence thing, getting the reps in at the next level, which, again, he's not even a bad shooter. But I think, after one season and getting those looks, because I think that's probably where he's going to get a lot of his money early on. I think they're going to make him shoot the 3-ball like they are with Cooper Flagg. But once he knocks that down, I think he's good for 1 or 2 a game. 2 might be a lot if he gets that amount of looks. But I think Boozer is getting very slept on. And I'm going to be honest, I had Caleb Wilson over Boozer to start the season. I have since come from that. I have since put Boozer as my 2. I have Boozer over DeBansa right now. DeBansa is Ace Bailey 2.0. That's a different conversation for a different day, in my opinion. But still can be a great player, high ceiling. But I think DP and Boozer right now are 1A, 1B. And I think Boozer right now is the runaway for the National Player of the Year. Because when it's all said and done, the numbers don't lie. So,
yeah, numbers don't lie.
I think Boozer needs to get a little more respect, man. Like I said, these might be troll pages and stuff, but the simple fact that I'm seeing it enough to where it's like alarming, like it's too many people with status or that have some skin in the game that are saying some questionable things about DP. Where I'm like, maybe I'm not DP, Boozer. Where I'm like, maybe you're watching 2 different games. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, no, I get you. We'll have to come back around. Really, we can dive more into our prospects and stuff.
Yes, sir.
But I'm not, honestly, like I can't, even if I wanted to argue AJ over Cam, like it's not enough to where I want to spend time on it,
100%.
Like, yeah, I still have AJ number 2, but you have Cam number, like I can't, there's not enough there where I'm like, okay, I really want to talk about it, But,
right.
Yeah, I can't disagree with what you're saying at all because Cam, he is getting, slept on and somewhat disrespected, but I think it's because if you think about it, bro, all these other guys, they're all jumping out. They're all crazy athletic.
Yeah.
They're all wowing us, right? Cam is boring. He is. He's boring. He's not fun to watch. He's boring. He's more technical, too. Like, Cam has really good foot. He has great footwork. Uses his body extremely well. Has a really high IQ.
Yeah.
And he's won. He's dominated all these kids. You know that, right? All throughout high school. They killed them 4 years in a row at the Peach Jam, which some will say Peach Jam is the best high school tournament that you can be a part of in the year, and I wouldn't argue that.
I wouldn't argue that.
You know what I'm saying? And they dominated. Like, his teams have dominated the last 4 years.
Yeah.
And even last year, him and Caleb Wilson, I don't know if you know it or not, but him and Caleb Wilson were both on the same EYBL team last year during the Peach Jam. And Cam was still the best player on that team. He was. That could have been by design, because the offense was being ran through him. Right. But Caleb was the best defender on that team. I watched them play because they had a game where they played against Tyron Stokes and AJ. It was AJ and Tyron on the same team. And they were playing against the Boozer twins and Dante Allen and Caleb Wilson. But yeah, I talked about that on my pod too. But yeah, Cam being number 2, I can't really argue with you about it. It's going to matter, right? Like a lot of I would say the only player in this draft where it doesn't matter where he goes is probably Darren Peterson.
Probably.
I think these other guys, it will matter where they land. And one of these guys are going to get lucky and be fortunate
Hey,
enough to go play for the Pacers.
somebody,
So
yep, we talked about somebody's going to Indiana, and Indiana is going to be right back in the playoff picture.
yeah, so
Yeah.
whatever
Um,
kid gets lucky to end up on the Pacers
yep.
will easily, I think, early on, will be garnered as the best player in the draft, will be garnered as having the best career. But I would challenge people to be careful on judging too early. But one of these kids is going to end up on the Pacers and end up
Yeah.
in the playoffs next year with the Pacers. So we're going to see which kid it is. I think it
Yeah,
should be
man.
Caleb Wilson. I think Caleb Wilson with the Pacers is
That'd be
a
tough.
match made in heaven. They need his
That'd be tough.
defense. And
That'd be
him in
tough.
transition, oh, Lord. Oh,
Next to
man.
Pascal too, I think he can learn a lot offensively from a guy like Pascal. Kind of similar
Yep.
frames a little bit.
Yep. I would love to
Man,
see Caleb Wilson, man, in Indiana.
that is gonna be something to watch, man. And this is our first time doing this, but I would like to maybe do this as often as we can, maybe once every other week, a few times a month, just to kind of give updates on what's going on, especially once we get into this March Madness crazy coming up, conference play coming up. Once we get past that, then we've got the NBA draft to lock in on, the combine. So I appreciate you for coming on, man. I know you got some scouting to do. I got some things I got to do.
Yep.
PJ Hoops Podcast. Check them out. TikTok,
Yep.
Instagram, YouTube. This ain't the last time you'll see us, man. Appreciate the conversation, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys, man.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
All right, man. That's what's up, bro.